All right, we are live here. I'm Spiro Scoris with Newsbud.com, and joining us today we have quite a few members of the Newsbud team. Joining us, we have Sibel Edmonds, who is the founder and editor of Newsbud.
Hello.
We're also joined by Peter Lee, Professor Philip Kovacevic, Pi Ian, and Eric Moshe. Today we're going to be doing a roundup of some of the hottest topics that happened in the past week geopolitically, and maybe some of the topics that slipped through the cracks. But first, we'd like to give you an update on our current Phase 3 Kickstarter program that is currently up and running on Kickstarter. Sibel?
Well, week 1 is over. Today we started our week 2, and we have been doing very good. Not good enough, but very good. We are 10% there in terms of the amount of dollars we have to raise for this Phase 3 Kickstarter for Newsbud. And we would like for this rate of accomplishing this goal to increase. I know there are a lot of people, it's some kind of a psychological factor. You know, people, they're like, oh, this is great. I'm definitely going to do that later, or I'll see how it goes and I will step in and do it later. And we, first of all, we want to thank all of you, every single one of the donors who came and pledged to this Phase 3 Kickstarter. Same goes for the previous Kickstarters. We really want to thank you. This is a community news organization. Let me put it this way. It is basically us, the Newsbud team, and together with all our supporters. These are our subscribers, people who have been generous and donating to us through our donation button at our website, but also all of you who have come, stepped in, and have made this a dream, because it used to be this thing that everybody considered a dream, to have a news organization that is 100% people funded, with no advertisement, with no foundation grants, with no partisan affiliation, which we have none. And we have shown the world, not only here in the US, we are based in the United States, our news organization, but I have to put this statistics out here for people because it's very interesting. Over 50% of our subscribers, our generous donors, are international. In fact, to just give you an example, we have been signing up for the first Newsbud Academy course offered by Professor Philip Kovacevic, the Great. And when we are looking at it, 10% of the people who have registered, and we have dozens of people who have registered, come from the United States. We have several from the United Kingdom. We have 2 from Denmark. We have 2 or 3 from Sweden, Germany, France, Switzerland. We had 1 person who registered, and he is in Iran, he or she, I don't know, but people from Turkey. So we have international supporters because our coverage is international. Anyhow, what I was saying was that don't wait. Do it now, because be the one who shows that this is the time to do it. And we want to wrap this thing up, the Kickstarter, even though it's going to go for 45 days. We only have 38 days left. We want to wrap it up because it is energy and time consuming, and all of us rather concentrate on our productions and all the analysis that we are putting forward, and our investigative stories. Some of them have been placed on hold because we are in the midst of this Kickstarter. So we are asking our audience to please do it today, do it now as you're watching us. You know, if you have your iPhone and you have a laptop there, go to our Kickstarter link. We have the link for you here, and do whatever you can. If what you can is $20, please do that. No amount is small or too small. If you can do $500, please do so, and God bless you. And with that, I know we have some interesting topics today about every one of us talking about the hottest, the most significant, the most important development this week. It can be national or international. So I'm going to have everyone get ready and start chiming in with what they consider, each one of you consider, the hottest, most important development. Spiro?
Well, that's right. We put together a fantastic team here at Newsbud, a team that I'm very proud to be a part of, and we have the panel here today joining us live. I'm very excited about this this broadcast here today. We're also going to be taking questions from you guys in the comment section in the live chat that's taking place right now. And Sibel, as you were mentioning the Kickstarter, I provided the link there in the live chat, as well as the link to the Newsbud Academy that Professor Kovacevic is going to be presenting. That's going to be awesome. He's going to be here in studio. I'm looking forward to that. But one of the first questions that we have here is from Kristen Short. She's a great supporter of ours. She runs our, she's a volunteer supporter, and she runs our Instagram page for us. Her question is, what were the key factors in the success of the previous two Newsbud Kickstarter campaigns? Sibel?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you, Christina, and thanks for everything you have been doing for our new organization. I say new because we've been operating only for 9 months, and I think we have achieved great accomplishment. But I think this is personal in terms of my personal opinion. In my opinion, what has contributed to our success, and it's a question that I would like everyone here in this group to take maybe a couple of minutes and answer. I think, generally speaking, people have good nose. You know, people can. I know mainstream media and a lot of outlets out there, they keep putting forward how dumbified people have become, and people are dumb, and they can be, you know, they can be easily fooled. But I believe that as an innate bullshit detector, excuse my language, people have a good sense when they see a good thing. And the track record we had before Newsbud as Boiling Frogs Post was one factor, because that started in 2009. And it was a very small, much smaller, in much smaller scale news organization that had only maybe 2 or 3 people, a couple of podcasts per week. Another thing is our team member, other than the track record, and these people, our team members, make it shine, because when we say, here is an analysis, we are not putting that forth by, you know, average Joe. Not that it is anything wrong with average Joe. Average Joes are good, fine. But people want to hear from people and from experts that do have the authority to talk about these points. For example, with Professor Philip Kovacevic, when he's talking about the Balkans and the Russian developments from the Russian perspective, you're listening to someone who speaks the language, who has lived in the country, who has taught in the country, who has been in touch with the politics there, who has contact and sources there, who spent his life basically going through the whole educational process in this area. Okay, I'm not saying it's limited to this. Same is true with every other member, whether it's Peter Lee, whether it is Jeff DeRiso with technology. So our team members, I believe, is another major factor. The other thing is, I believe people have been hungry. People have been so thirsty, so hungry to see objective. I mean, I know there is no such a thing as 100% unbiased or 100% objective, but with the track record and with our team members, we have shown that there has been no partisanship. We are not into this red pill, blue pill business. And the fact that we have not ever run advertisements from any corporations on our website, that we have never been connected financially or in any kind of relationship to any foundations. And those foundations, they operate with their own set of agendas. So people have been hungry and thirsty for this. And for the first time, they see a potential, an opportunity of having this kind of a medium as a news organization. They took a chance. And finally, the other part, the beauty of this model is, instead of going for one big, you know, capital, startup capital to take us through 2 years, we decided to do this in 4 phases, meaning every 5 months we raise funds, and you have 5 months, people have 5 months to sit back, observe, watch, and see what we are accomplishing, in terms of how many shows we are adding, how professionally they are edited, what kind of programs, what kind of articles, analysts we are adding to our site. And obviously, people have been pleased and happy with what they have been seeing. And I hope that's the case for this phase as well. So that's my take. And with that, I would like for our team members to tell our viewers why they think we have been successful in the past.
Well, don't all jump at once.
Well, I guess I'll volunteer to go first. What I've seen in Newsbud, whether it's people commenting in the audience or commenting in the comment sections on YouTube, whether it's the comment box on Newsbud's official website, I see a lot of support and camaraderie directed towards Newsbud news producers. In particular, Philip Kovacevic has a large fan base of people on YouTube, always complimenting the way that he talks, the way that he expresses himself, the little nuances in his physical movements, and the way that he talks about Russia. Peter Lee has a very nice sense of humor, and it comes through in his reports about China. And people appreciate that. People appreciate the personal touch that people put on their news spins. Spiro is also the recipient of a lot of praise as well. I think he's a very personable face of the Newsbud production team. He has a lot of compliments in comment sections. I believe recently someone said that, Spiro, you're a great addition to the Newsbud team. I hope they appreciate you. I would consider myself an average Joe who has some interesting articles, a couple of cool videos. Pi Ian is a new addition to the team. He seems like a very charismatic man. He's very well spoken. And I read his article about the economics issue that he covered, and that was interesting. And just in general, I think people see Newsbud as the good guys. And that's hard to create if it's not legitimate. And that's my take.
Yeah, well, actually, I got a email from a supporter who actually did sign up and contribute to the Kickstarter, so I was very happy about that. And one of the things that he said that I liked is he said, Peter, I can't tell if you're a lunch pail carrying Trump idiot or a NPR tote bag carrying liberal, and that's the way I try to present my reports. I try to be as objective as I can and as analytical as I can, and I think people appreciate that. They don't want to feel that I'm coming at them from an angle, and that's a strength of Newsbuds. I think all of the analysts, we're covering stories that are not covered, and we play them straight, and that's pretty rare nowadays.
If I could just volunteer now, what attracted me to Newsbud and why I'm proud to be affiliated is because it's not just alternative news. There's plenty of alternative news out there, as our team members, Sibel, Spiro, as well as our audience knows, whether it's based overseas, whether it's domestic in the US or otherwise. However, Newsbud, as I perceived it, isn't just news so much as it is briefings. It's really like with Professor Kovacevic or with Professor Lee, it's like a sense of bringing information in a capacity that, I'll say it, is dangerous, is quite frankly, you're not supposed to know this stuff. And hence Newsbud will bring it, because practically the entire rest of the mainstream corporate media complex, industrial complex, is tactically deployed to, at the very least, make the subjects that are discussed on Newsbud opaque. So to cut through not just the opacity, but to present it in succinct fashion, as one would within, I'll say it, an intelligence briefing, to treat the audience as if they're members of an intelligence or government briefing, isn't just a compliment to said audience, but is really a reinvention of what journalism is and really what it should have been, especially considering the Himalayan-sized stakes geopolitically and macroeconomically out there. So that's really what Newsbud isn't just alternative news, but as punk rock, if you will. I grew up in the late 70s and throughout the 80s. Punk rock and the parts of California that I grew up in was considered definitive ontological revolt against conditioning, be it educational, cultural, familial, or otherwise. and it is, for lack of a more academic phrase, as punk rock as it gets with regard to news reporting and analysis.
Well, I would have to agree. Definitely. I would just want to point out here a couple comments that we did have. One from Steve Getz. He just pledged $50 to the Kickstarter campaign. I would like to thank you, Steve. That is fantastic. It all adds up. People that pitch in what they can, before you know it, if hundreds and hundreds of people do so, we'll be at our goal before you know it. There is one other good question here that I'd like to present to the Newsbud team here before we start getting into the news and analysis. And this is from Crystal Radcliffe. And she asks, do you believe in a clear separation between journalism and activism?
I would like to start with that. It's going to be hopefully very brief. But I wanted to say, this is exactly why you get different perspectives, different people on a team, because the answers each one of you provided made me go like, oh yeah, that's a great point, and why didn't I think of that? And Peter, it's so true, and it makes me chuckle, because we have, let's say, one video show on, let's say, Tuesday, and some people are coming and saying, oh, you must be Trump lover, you must be a total right wing. And then the same person, the producer, has another show 2 days later, and you have this segment coming and saying, could you be any more liberal? And as what? And I love this, because that is not about Newsbud. It's not about left, right, blue pill, right, red pill. And I'm so glad you brought that point up. And same thing with you, Pi, because that was an excellent point. And the analogy with the punk rock, and I know Spiro can relate to that, because I know he spent his years with punk rock when he was in his early teens and all the way until later. That's a great analogy. I'm going to frame that, and I'm going to remember it for the next time. And one final thing before I quickly answer the question from Crystal, and thank you for the question, Crystal, is Spiro. And Spiro, I don't think there's going to be enough compliments to go and to be deserved, because Spiro started as a producer, and he was producing his own show, and he has a great production ability. And I know he's been frustrated because he doesn't even get a chance, because he has so many ideas that he wants to produce, and he can do all aspects of it, from research to delivery to editing and all the stuff. It's because Spiro has been doing so many things and been wearing so many hats, because he's in charge of our social media. He's in charge of overseeing our post-production editing team, and also involved in post-production editing team. If I were to start listing the number of things he does, and he works 7 days a week, and I'm not exaggerating this, and 12 to 14 hours a day, and sometimes he's waking up in the middle of the night. But you know how we look at the body and say there is this spinal cord? Well, Spiro has been the spinal cord of news organization. I'm technologically challenged, and I have to say, without him on my side every single day delivering and getting things done, I don't know what we would have done. So yes, he may be spending a lot of time in the background, but without him, and all of us here know, because we all put our weight on him, and it's like, how do this, Spiro? How do we take care of this, Spiro? So that's for that. Crystal, I don't think there is any separation between activism and journalism if you define and consider true journalism as activism for the truth, okay? So if you have the expertise and your purpose is to expose things and to explain the facts on the ground, and to tell the truth about things, because we are surrounded by lies and deceits and propaganda, then you are engaged in true journalism. For anyone who separates that, I would fight it till the day I die, that there is no difference between activism for truth and journalism with the expertise necessary to put out there. I know there are a lot of people who would want to do that, but there are certain guidelines that we have to adhere to. But I would define true journalism as activism for truth. And with that, I would like you to provide your take, every one of you. Great question, by the way, Crystal.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've never been a activist in the conventional political sense because I don't run with the crowd. That's probably why I'm here at Newsbud. My priority is to get beyond political spin and try to put the facts out there and let people decide where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're going, and allow them to make informed decisions. And that's really what I think that my job should be.
Right. I think most of Newsbud programs in themselves are not activist related. I think the panel we have before us right now are an example of the informative type of shows that Newsbud provides. But activism in itself is also not a bad thing, because if you look at some of the best muckrakers of all time, people who have been given the status of like the first muckrakers, like for example, Ida Tarbell, who was a very fierce opponent towards John D. Rockefeller and Standard Oil. I'm sure she had some spunk to her. And if you're going to present news and do journalism, it's good to have a little bit of attitude. So that can be mistaken easily as activism. For example, if Sibel is giving a very passionate speech or a tangent about a corrupt congressman or something like that, that might be perceived as either informative or maybe a little bit of activism attached to it. But mostly it's just like socially conscious United States citizen who wants to know what's going on, and if they see something wrong with something, then they're going to speak up. And if it comes through as a medium, as activism, then I think that's just part of the side effect of having like really effective journalism.
Well, we're getting all kinds of activity going on in the chat here. All kinds of people saying hello. They're very excited about what Newsbud is doing. We have people from all over the world tuning in right now. We have, here's one of the comments, greeting from Serbia, Kovacevic rules. That's a good comment there. So, and again, we'd like to, encourage everyone to visit the Kickstarter page that we are currently running right now, phase 3. If you like what Newsbud is doing, you like what we're doing, and you want us to continue, and you want to continue to see what we're doing, then support independent media. We truly are independent, people-powered media. And I'll provide the link to the Kickstarter in the show notes. It's an all or nothing campaign. I'll provide it in the chat as well. But it's an all or nothing campaign. So that means if you pledge your donation and we don't succeed our goal by the end of the date, your credit card will not be charged at all. You'll only be charged if and only when we meet or exceed our goal by that deadline. And Sibel, there's another point that you brought up earlier. It's a very valid point.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because every time we talk about it, I forget. We selected Kickstarter for several reasons as the medium for crowdfunding. Kickstarter is the toughest one out there in terms of their strict policies. You have to submit your organization's tax status, business registration, and they check all that. They check your bank account to make sure that it's registered under your business. So you see a lot of these crowdfunding platforms that what they do is they don't check. So you have a lot of crooks going in there and saying, I have a daughter who's terminally ill and nobody can verify that. Give me money. I saw this particular guy saying, I'm going through a divorce and my wife is getting the custody. Give me money so I can. It's like, what in the world is that? Kickstarter does professional organizations, mediums, and they are strict with their policy. The other beauty of Kickstarter is the fact that it's all or nothing, because if we are giving that amount, that means we have sharpened our pencil and we have really gone down, said, this is what we need. Meaning if we get less than that, we won't be able to deliver those goals, those objectives we are listing there. That's why we are saying this is the minimum amount we have to raise. So even if we fall short, this is $115,000 for this round. And if you are short by $500, we won't get anything and you won't be charged anything. I know that would be one of the most excruciating things to ever happen. You get to $114,500, and then you're like, I can't get a penny out of that. And with that, the point I wanted to bring was there is one shortcoming for Kickstarter. Kickstarter only accepts payments, I believe, from 13 countries, okay? And that's, I think most of the Western European countries are there, France, Germany, then there's Australia, New Zealand, UK, US, Mexico, Canada, and 4 others. Now, people say, well, I can't. Or there are some people who say, I'm in these countries and I can't donate to Kickstarter. You can donate, it won't count towards the Kickstarter goal, but if you want to do it, you can go to our website, newsbud.com. You can click on donate page and you can donate whatever you can. There are some people who also complain, they say Kickstarter doesn't accept PayPal. Well, that's true. We do accept PayPal. It won't count towards the Kickstarter goal, but if you want to use your PayPal for subscription or for the donation, please visit newsbud.com. Click, there are buttons at the top, donation or subscription, and you can use your PayPal. We even accept check. We have the PO box, address, everything provided there. So if you are outside the group who's able to donate and pledge through this Kickstarter, you can do it through our website. Now, that number on Kickstarter won't change. It won't go towards that $115,000, but it will tremendously, tremendously help us at Newsbud to function. Our members, everybody is paid. People here, just like you, we have rents, we have family, we have expenses. We have to make the ends meet. And to produce this high quality productions that we are offering on a daily basis by the top experts in this world, we need to be able to afford that. And that's why it's a community. We can do it together. To just give you a quick example, let's say for Professor Kovacevic's show that you're watching, that 20 minutes or 30 minutes show, or for Peter Lee's show, you are looking at hours and hours of research, script writing, because they sit down and they have these, you should see the scripts, like 10, 15, 20 pages of script, which is minimum of 10 hours work. Then there is delivery, meaning they have to record that. Sometimes it takes more than a few takes. So that goes towards that portion of it, which is somewhere between 10 to 15 hours. Then it goes to our post-production team. Our post-production team, whether it is Brock West, the greatest in Australia, or is our newest addition, Jeff Doriso, and I have to call him magnificent because he's amazing, or if it's our executive producer, Spiro, you are looking at 10 to 15 hours of post-production editing with these professional B-rolls, with all the cleaning, editing, intro, outro, providing all the stats, data, images, everything. Then it goes to our web admin who takes that, formats it, and posts it, and then we promote it through social media to inform you that, okay, we just published Peter Lee's China Watch episode, etc. You are looking at one show involving close to 30 hours of work, folks. This is not some, I don't have any problem with average Joes getting a cell phone and say, yo, dude, what's up? Did you see that screwed up business out there? Damn, man, that's so awful. And then they put it on YouTube, and for some weird, I don't know, mind-boggling reason, it shows 1 million hits. And there's no editing, there's no there's no fact checking, there's nothing. That's not our operation. I don't have problem with those sites. I don't go there. But this is not what you're seeing. You're seeing professional people spending the needed, required time to research, fact check, script write, post-production editing, delivery, web admin portion. That's what you are supporting. This is who we are. Thank you.
Well, that's right. Thank everyone out there for your support. We thank you. I think we should start getting into some of the news here. Kovacevic, I know that you wanted to start off with the news here. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Professor, but what topic are you going to start covering here?
Well, I've got a lot of things to say. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very grateful to all the positive commentaries from the Newsbud team about the work I do. I do my work very conscientiously. It's not only the work I spent on writing something and producing something, it's the years of experience and expertise and talking to people and thinking about what they said and understanding what they're about. So what I'm offering you in my work is the actual events plus my analysis and interpretations. I'm not simply translating or summarizing Russian newspapers. I'm also giving you my analysis, which is based on 20 years of experience. I've lived in Russia. I taught at the university in Russia. I associated with many Russians, and I think I can understand the logic of the Kremlin the way most people here in the United States and in Western Europe, either they don't understand it or they don't want to understand it because they have their own geopolitical agenda, which is directed at the breakup of Russia. And in order to understand Russia today, we have to understand that the country of the size of Russia and the complexities of Russia may not be able to have the same, or cannot have the same kind of political system that, let's say, the United States has. But in addition to that, my commitment is to truth and also to fighting on the side of the people, of the ordinary people. I mean, the government institutions that we are all paying for with our tax money have been privatized by a small group of individuals. And what we at Newsbud are trying to do is to expose the lies and manipulations and the crimes, and sometimes also the murders that are taking place in order to preserve a corrupt and unjust national and international system. So what we do always has an orientation toward revealing more for the people and educating the people, because what we need to do, all of us, we need to know what is going on. And we are also trying to establish the atmosphere of trust, because it is not only what you say, it's who you are. That's the key, who you are. Do you trust us? And I'm directing this question to our audience today. Do you trust us? If you trust us, then please support us, because we need your support to continue doing what we are doing. And as Sibel said, this is a unique operation. We are funded 100% by you, the people. We are not associated with any foundation or any government agency or any corporation. This is an island of uniqueness in the world, because in a capitalist system like this one, everybody is saying there is no such thing as a free lunch, and there is none. But we are asking you, the people, to support us with your little donations. We are asking for $50, $100, $200 that almost anybody can afford, and it will continue us not only for the work that we are doing now, but to expand our work, to bring more people on board, to have, instead of 5 members, to have 10 members, and maybe tomorrow 20 members, and then 50 members, and then perhaps to inspire some kind of a international, national and international movement to a more peaceful world, because we are all on the side of peace. Especially in my work, I criticize the war party. I think war is not a solution, but I also see how war is a big business for a small minority that's running the things. So every time you read my articles, think about my commitment to the world of peace. So I'm not as only a journalist. I'm not only reporting. I'm also an activist fighting for something better for all of us, not only for the for the people at the top, that most people working in the government institutions or in the corporations are doing it. But we also need them, because they know what's going on. I'm sure that there are so many insiders out there working in those institutions that we need to get in touch with you. You need to get in touch with us and help us out, bring different stories out, because I think you can trust us. And we have been, as Sibel said, we have been tested. We have worked for 9 months, and you can see our work. You can see our work and then judge for yourself. And now to go back to Spiro's question after this this kind of inspiring monologue, you know, I'm trying to understand the logic of the Kremlin. I'm afraid that there is an effort to have a war with Russia, and that this effort is intensifying at this point of time. And so I'm really trying to understand, you know, how the Russians are going to react to that. And I'm also looking especially at the figure of Vladimir Putin. So what I prepared for you in this show is essentially looking at the extremely busy week of Vladimir Putin that will happen starting on Monday. For instance, let me just start with that. On Tuesday, he met with German Chancellor Angela Merkel for the first time in 2 years that she came to Russia. She came to Sochi. She came to meet with Putin. There were many different issues discussed. Then the same day, the very same day, at night, Putin spoke with the US President Donald Trump. And then the next day, he met with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So essentially, in 2 days, Putin communicated with except for the Chinese president, he communicated with the most important political leaders in the world. I'm thinking about Angela Merkel in Europe, Erdogan in the Middle East, and also Trump in the United States. And so they talked to him. They wanted to talk to him, which means that they really want to find out what the Russian plans are, but I'm not saying that they're trying to make some kind of détente with Putin. I'm only saying that Russia is being included back into the international community because of some very pressing issues. I would say they deal with Syria, Ukraine, and also North Korea. And North Korea is something that I know Peter has done a lot of work on, and I think it will be great today, perhaps, to touch on that question from different viewpoints, from the US viewpoint, from the Chinese viewpoint, from the Russian viewpoint, and then have a conversation about that.
Yeah. Was that my cue to talk about North Korea, you think? Okay, well, you know, I'm Peter Lee, and I host China Watch on Newsbud, and I'm a big fan of Newsbuds. Every penny that's put into the company or the operation shows up on the screen. I mean, the work that, as Sibel was saying, the work that the team does is tremendous, and there's a lot of effort that goes into these videos, and I'm trying to structure my my talks as the antidote to fake news, the antidote to spin, and the antidote to all the running around with their hair on fire that you get in a lot of international reporting these days. We're getting into an extremely strange period in which hysterics over international policy are becoming the norm. And it's, I think, not just a relief to have some place like Newsbud to serve as a refuge, but also Newsbud to serve as a nucleus of accurate, objective reporting, and also to show people that there is another way of looking at events and analyzing events, and also interacting civilly with one's peers. So I do 2 shows on Newsbud. One of them is China Watch, which is runs about 20 minutes and is a weekly show covering Chinese affairs and Asian affairs. And I've also started a second show called Asia Brief. And that, folks, is behind the paywall because I think that you know, we should offer our loyal viewers a chance to get access behind the paywall to, you know, unique and valuable content. The stuff on Asia Brief has a longer term historical perspective, and right now I'm building up a library of programs about the history of U.S. engagement with Korea, which of course has been very much on my mind and the world's mind in the last few weeks since Donald Trump came to office with the intention of drawing a clear, bright line between the Obama administration's policy of strategic patience, which is basically just letting North Korea stew in its own juice, and a more proactive policy that will possibly lead to the denuclearization of North Korea. It's a funny thing. I think I pretty much have that story to myself in the public media. The popular presentation of Trump Asia policy is a senile old man in a bathrobe wandering outside and yelling at clouds, which is Donald Trump. He actually has an extremely capable Asia team, and they're pretty much running Asia policy, and Donald Trump is simply the figurehead in front, and occasionally pitching in with a few blunders of his own. Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, was setting up the entire North Korea strategy of the United States at the United Nations last week, and that was the topic of my most recent show on China Watch. The basic drift of it is that the United States has drawn a red line on ICBM tests. If North Korea proceeds with an ICBM test, that means a missile capable of striking the continental United States. The United States has signaled that it will conduct an attack, either a preemptive attack while the ICBM is on the launch pad, or just go in there and whack a few things around after the missile is launched. That is a threat, but to the region of Asia, it is not the immediate threat. The immediate threat is the nuclear tests that North Korea is conducting, because they are working towards a miniaturized warhead, which could not only go on top of that future ICBM, but could also go on top of the current medium-range ballistic missiles they already have, and which can already strike Japan, South Korea, and something which I think is usually ignored, those missiles can also strike China. There are two countries in the world that are interested, well, three, counting South Korea, but in terms of regime change in North Korea, China is the overlooked factor. They've traditionally viewed North Korea as their sphere of influence, and they've always had a scenario in which they could go in there and depose the government of North Korea. So the completion of the miniaturized nuclear warhead program for North Korea is a key destabilizing issue for China and the region. So China drew its red line, saying that if North Korea lit off another nuclear test, it would be its sixth. Then it's going to then China is going to go through the UN Security Council and impose genuinely biting sanctions on the supply of petroleum products to North Korea, which would basically take all of their cars and trucks off the road. So that's the table that was set at the UN Security Council last week. Now everybody is waiting for the the South Korean presidential election. As I guess you're aware, President Park ran into a few problems and was impeached, and so now there's a makeup election. It's going to happen on May 9th. And the current projection is for a relatively moderate, peacenik-y, U.S. suspicious and China-friendly-ish guy called Moon Jae-in. And China is holding back on its diplomacy for North Korea, I believe, until it sees if he's in office. So that way it can coordinate its moves on North Korea with the political political trends in South Korea. And at the same time, the United States is looking at this rather anxiously, because if Moon enters office, the chances are that South Korea will drift more into the Chinese orbit. So it's a very dynamic situation, and I'm expecting that over the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll get a resolution. Either the Trump strategy of making his North Korea move via China will bear fruit, or else in a few weeks the initiative will stall with a lot of rancor and a lot of exciting fallout, which I will also cover on China Watch. So a lot of interesting things going on in Asia, and I think a lot of perspectives that you can only get here on Newsbud. So I'm, as I always do, I always encourage people to subscribe to Newsbud. But now I'd like to make a special appeal for people to go to the Kickstarter page now, and contribute and help keep us on the air and bringing you all this good stuff.
Thank you, Peter. This was a great briefing on the week with everything North Korea. And I also, before we move to Pi Ian, wanted to take a couple of seconds and tell people, because I've been getting these questions and I know it's coming to my Twitter saying, what are the other things you're planning, considering or assuming this is going to be successful, which we know we are going to be successful. I try not to say if we are successful, when we are successful. We want to slowly but surely expand our team. And Pi Ian joined us just a few weeks ago, and I have done a lot of background check, what he has written, various interviews and analysis he has provided through different worldwide news organizations, and everything I have seen from Mr. Ian has been just so top-notch and impressive. And he and I had this nice session before he came on board. We talked about the importance of having no ties or relations to any of these organizations, or even internationally, foreign governments, etc. So we have gone through that. And one of the plans we have, the reason I'm bringing this up right now, and then we're going to move to Mr. Ian after that, is we are going to present Pi Ian on weekly basis, just like the shows we have with Professor Kovacevic, Russian newspaper monitor, every Sunday, with one of the nation's top constitutional attorneys, John Whitehead, on Tuesday. We have Peter Lee on Wednesdays with China Watch, and on Thursday with Asia Pacific, which is exclusive to our community members. And it's a great show. We have been receiving so many encouraging emails, incredible comments on how wonderful this new show is, Asia Pacific. If you haven't checked it out yet, if you're a subscriber, you can go to our site and you can find Peter's first two shows. We have, of course, Jeff DeRiso on technology and implications, all the developments in that area every Friday. But with Mr. Ian, we are going to show to our audience on weekly basis what is happening globally from the economics and finance perspective. And what makes Pi Ian so unique is you get these people, you hear them on NPR and all the stuff. You get these analysts who go on like da 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 da, and I fall asleep because I don't have financial background. And when it gets into nitty-gritty detailed stuff, I start rolling my eyes. But what Pi Ian does is he takes the important, very important financial economic developments, and he ties it in to the geopolitical developments, which to me is extremely important, because how could you leave that, which is, I believe, the most important ingredients out of geopolitical analysis. We bring Russia perspective, China, North Korea, etc. But to have one of the top experts to come and put these developments within the financial and economics perspective, whether it's OPEC and oil prices and what's happening there, and why we are seeing sabotage numbers increasing in certain countries' pipeline, who is not getting in line with US or West dictated economic neoliberal policies. Whether we are talking about Venezuela or Iran, whether we are talking about Libya or Central Asia, Caucasus, these are extremely important. And this is one of several objectives we have. And upon successful completion of this Kickstarter, Newsbud Kickstarter Phase 3, we are going to start producing and bringing to you our community members. And our community members is whom I'm talking with, who we are working with, and who we are producing for, together with them. Will be weekly financial/economic analysis within the geopolitical perspective and developments. And with that, I just want to take a few seconds. This is great. We have increased the number of our pledgers by 7 or 8 since we started this live streaming. thank you, every one of you who just clicked and donated whatever was the amount. Many thanks from all of us and from our Newsbud community as well. This is one of the things Pi Ian Show will be presented to you starting in July, August after the successful completion. But meanwhile, you can read his amazing analysis, and we usually provide link to the PDF documents because he presents us easy to read 2-3 pages of analysis, but then he has the more academic with all the needed graph and sources, footnotes, etc. in his PDF document that we provide to our readers. And I'm in touch. I have been watching and talking with 2 potential very good investigative journalists. That has been the hardest thing to do, to find, because that's another objective we have had, to have at least 2-3 full-time Newsbud investigative journalists who are seasoned, who know how to conduct investigative journalism. I'm not that. You know, I can do research, I can present analysis, I can write commentary, but it's a different breed. I have been given recommendations, but for many reasons, it has been very tough to find independent ones. There are a lot of people who want to work part-time, but then their other employment happens to be in conflict with us. For example, there is a person who also works for Al Jazeera. Well, I know he's a very good journalist, but we can't have that because I know who owns Al Jazeera. I know what Al Jazeera does. So even though it's not really his fault, by default, he gets to be tainted. We don't want that. We want to have conflict-free people working with us as our team members. And it's unfortunate, but it has been difficult. But now we have pinpoint 2 investigative journalist candidates who are ready to come on board when we start reaching these objectives. So investigative journalists, also bringing to you a financial econ analysis within the geopolitical perspectives. And then in the future, I mean, I have people sending us emails saying, now you have technology, you have Russia, you have this, you have civil liberties. When are you going to tackle health-related stuff, okay? Meaning, a lot of people are interested on a lot of big pharma issues, and that's very important, very, very important. As I said, we want to have people with established record, experts, people that we can respect, we can look up to and say, this person has the authority to speak on the subject. I know there are websites who are activists as well. For example, one of the issues happens to be vaccines and a lot of controversies because good studies being conducted outside the US, but you don't get to see them on New York Times. You don't see them in Washington Post. Jeff DeRiso's latest show talked about fluoride in water and how it's been banned in many countries in Europe. And he went back to the history of how one of the top mega corporations made a deal with the government, with one of the top marketing advertising gurus, selling its waste product, fluoride, that they would have thrown out, right, to the states to add to the water, okay? And the United States media and many of the so-called alternative medias, they are not talking about that. You know why? Because that jerky company, Arcola, happens to be one of their advertisers. How could they, right? Or if you're talking about Pfizer or Merck, and then your advertiser who has those pop-up ads in your damn alternative, so-called alternative, how can you criticize the pharmaceutical companies when your bread and everything is coming from those companies? We want to have that. I'm looking at top medical experts. I know there are a lot of people in this industry, physicians, unfortunately, they have been violating their Hippocratic oath. Meaning, I mean, my father was a doctor, he was a surgeon. And when for the first time he came to the United States and talked with some doctors here, he said, these people are violating their Hippocratic oath because the pharmaceutical companies are sending these, I don't want to call them a-holes, but I don't have any other words, to Hawaii for 1 week to golf, and their families, their spouses and their children in one of the top 4 season hotels in Hawaii. They are, $700, $800 minimum per night. So when they come back, when they come back to the United States, they go into their office, which they're abusing. They give these samples, turning us into guinea pigs, produced by the company that send them out golfing. Or if it is prescribing a medication, particular medicine, doing the one that sends him to the skiing next trip to Aspen, Colorado. He said, I know the countries we have lived, in Iran or Turkey is corrupt, but it's not this corrupt. I mean, they're getting there. The neoliberal agenda, which this is part of, that has already started a little bit in Turkey. A few years ago, the president there, back then he was not the president, he was prime minister, he illegalized it. He said, the doctors shall not receive any commissions, any kind of gifts. These are all bribery, folks. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, now we may get some physicians canceling their Kickstarter pledge. But this is what we are. We are about honesty, okay? So if you are one of those physicians who's perfectly happy with violating your Hippocratic oath, go ahead. We don't want your dirty blood money anyway, okay? Please do that right now. But to counter that, I'm not going to bring Mary Jane. I don't know if there's someone called Mary Jane who runs a site called Nature blah blah, who doesn't have any medical degree, who doesn't have any sign, and she just goes and says, this is bad for you. I saw this here and there. No. I have already met and know several physicians who have removed themselves from the cesspool of medical institutions in the United States. One of them is retired. One of them was one of the top heart surgeons who have been brave enough to write medical articles, not that it gets published in any mainstream media, about some of these issues. I mean, we had that measles vaccine issues, but I'm not going to have Mary Jane to sit here and tell you what is right, what is not right, because that is wrong. They need to have the authority on the subject. Now, in the future, near future, as we get successful, of course, we would like to add a weekly show that delves into all sorts of developments within this cesspool in the United States called healthcare, whether it's the pharma-related or the practices in the hospitals. We want to cover that. We want to pinpoint one of or some of the top experts with authority, read my lips, with authority, and we pay them, we bring them on board, and we will produce top-notch independent information source for our people who are interested in that. At this point, we can, but with your help, as our number of subscribers go up at Newsbud, as we get these Kickstarters successfully completed, that's on the plan. You bet we are going to have that. When we challenge the system, this is in a multi-level, but from multiple angles. Financial economics, and I'm going to go to Pi Ian right after this, and the geopolitical developments, civil liberties. If it's civil liberties, we want to have one of the top constitutional attorneys, as we have one of the top Russia experts and China experts. With that, please don't wait. Don't say I'll do it later tonight. Don't say I may do it next week. You see what you like, you enjoy what we are putting out there, you do see the importance of an independent media, 100% people funded. We don't commit the sin of running advertisements on our site. Nobody is alternative. If they are running advertisement on their site, they are not alternative. Please do that now. Go to our Kickstarter link, it's provided to you here, and pledge whatever you can, whether it's $20, whether it's $500, whether it's $1,000 or up to $10,000. We are here with you and we are going to accomplish this. We have shown you the track record in the last 5 months since the last Kickstarter with what we have accomplished, and we want to show you more. So please do your share and do it now. And with that, Pi?
Well, thank you, Sibel. I'm again honored to be on this particular broadcast with regard to the assisting of Newsbud through the Kickstarter program. I just thought of something while you were speaking. I have a lot of either suburban or kind of metro and urban friends working in a whole variety of different industries and sectors. And I love to talk about current affairs and international affairs, whether in social settings, on email, on social media, or whatnot. And it will get to a point where these friends or family or whoever, they're genuinely concerned about what's happening out there. But many of them express, look, you know, what am I going to do? You know, I got 4 kids, their karate and taekwondo classes, my mortgage, worrying, you know, looking over my shoulder at all times at work to see somebody isn't one-upping me, you know, just adjusting my smile so that I'm not seen as weird at work or whatever, trying to please my wife or husband. What am I, you know, I have no capacity for changing the world. All I can do is control what I can control. And, you know, being the best father, the best husband, the best worker, the best cog in the wheel that I can be is the best that I can do. So it's great to talk with you about this, but I learned early on from my parents, you know, if you can't control something, don't waste time on it. And nonetheless, they scour social media, or they want to banter about what's happening overseas, about what a bad person Putin is, or you know, the Chinese wanting to do this and that. So they're obviously curious, but they feel completely and authentically disempowered. And yet they will, you know, contribute money to so-and-so's campaign for Congress, or such and such's campaign for the presidency, genuinely believing that their hard-earned money is going to make a difference in the acute sense, namely my representative in my district, in the state sense, my senator, you know, this senator that I would want in power, or as the past several months have shown, or the past several, you know, like a year and a half to 2 years have shown, the presidential sense, that this person, namely Donald J. Trump, is a genuine, authentic maverick like no other president ever before. He is genuinely anti-establishment and will thus bring about viable change. You know, they give their time, money, effort, and energy to these things. Why am I going about this? Because if you contribute to a platform like Newsbud, you are doing more to affect change than you would be through contributing monies to a presidential candidate, or to one of these opaquely operating political platforms. Why do I say that? Is because you're directly and materially and energy-wise supporting a tactically deployed rebellious crew to dig up and at the least present you with what's actually happening out there. You, audience member, are already spending a significant amount of time trying to decipher what's actually happening versus what you intuitively know are bollocks, as my friends in the UK would say. So Sibel mentioned NPR earlier. You know, NPR pre 9/11 was very different from NPR, National Public Radio, and American Public Media in the US post 9/11. That wasn't coincidental. It was a sense of government mandate coming down on them and saying, this is how you will be presenting information. Well, these same people, the suburbanites, the urban metro folks, the yuppies, and everybody else out there, they listen to NPR and they feel better about themselves. They feel like, you know what, I am ahead of 99% of the riffraff public out there because I listen to NPR. You know, I sip lattes, I have 3 degrees, and thus I am in a better class intellectually, materially, and otherwise. Completely being duped by the fact that end all be all, they are absorbing propaganda, albeit in a more erudite and sophisticated, supposedly perceptively fashion, than would be the Fox News or AM radio far-right absorber. So if you genuinely are curious as to where to deploy your hard-earned funds, Newsbud is the antithesis of you being a cog in the wheel, because it literally arms you in the philosophical sense with knowledge or gnosis to then be able to completely view current affairs, completely view yourself and your role in the world in a different sense. So that's my rant with regard to the Kickstarter and the need for not just, oh, give money to us, but revolt against all of what you've been conditioned with through supporting a platform like Newsbud in order to further empower you. And that is the essence of core economics, is your labor and your energy represented vis-a-vis quote unquote money being contributed towards something that immediately and directly benefits back to you. Now, I have I jumped through these hoops, busting my tail throughout all of schooling and through undergraduate as well as graduate work, going into industry with full gusto. And nonetheless, always kind of trying to think critically because it's just fun. I'm sorry, I like to think. I think thinking is fun. I'm sorry. But what I would think in instances of either the academic milieu or later on within industry across, various companies and sectors that I would work in, I always kind of became the stickler or the, at the very least, the amusing black sheep. And at the worst, like, you're really not supposed to bring those items up. And yet what I would be bringing up more often than not would prove prescient. Namely, I worked at a real estate investment trust, which was one of the largest sophisticated mortgage companies in the country 12, 13 years ago, 2004, 2005, 2006, seeing the writing on the walls, reading the, as they call heterodox economists, those that think independently, that are not tethered to the Federal Reserve and its tentacles, and books, white papers, articles, and sitting there going, this doesn't make sense. This looks like a massive Ponzi scheme. This looks very dangerous. People within, not meetings, just, in between cubicles or offices saying, you know what, you want to keep that down, Pi, because it really doesn't fit the teamwork platform we have here. Now, that particular company went from 800 people down to 48. When? During and after the 2008 financial crisis. It was dramatized in Oscar-winning movies like The Big Short. Well, I lived in the crevices of The Big Short in real life prior to it happening. Why do I bring this up? It's because education, quote unquote, and conditioning by a mainstream corporate media presents you as team player, as best of a team player as you can be. Platform like this, or just you literally punk rocking it and revolting against all of sentient reality, picking up texts like Professor Kovacevic might have written, or ones that he would suggest, make you step out, get out of that cave that Plato described, and see what's actually outside in order to live a full life, in order to then save yourself and others from being amongst those that lost when trillions were wiped off of books between mid-2007 through 2009. So it is with that sense of revolt that I bring my efforts, bring my obsession with regard to going through information and deciphering what's actually happening. Because I tell you, few environments are more propagandized than finance and economics. And finance and economics have pretensions to being hard sciences, whereas they are not hard sciences. Physics is a hard science. You cannot argue with force equals mass times acceleration. You might think you can in a mystical sense, but physics is physics. Economics is not physics. And yet, neoliberal economics, modern corporate finance, like, there's so many over-mathematized assumptions about human behavior that assume that these soft fields, quote unquote, are effectively the same or can be trackable in the same fashion as the hard sciences, that it is a perennial recipe for disaster. So, the acute sense of what I've been focusing on, and not just over the past week, but over really the past couple of years, is what is the petrodollar per se? This is the subject that I wanted to get into for the purpose of this Kickstarter podcast. The petrodollar, if anyone out there is aware, whether you feel like you're steeped on it, you've read texts on it, you have a PhD in finance, you work within the field of either energy or banking or whatnot, something related, or you're just like, you've heard it in passing, but you're curious. It is vital that people understand what this 44-year-old, effectively, this 44-year-old Ponzi scheme was, is, and is continuing to be, because it is backed by sophisticated but opaque and arms-backed finance, effectively. It goes to so much of the root of what's happening with regard to not just global finance and economics, but then by necessity, politics, conflict, and whatnot. It's a 44-year-old platform. that was put into basically the gold standard that existed up from World War II, the end of World War II, through 1971, when then President Nixon ended the gold standard, closed the gold window, provided a certain sense of discipline with regard to the monetary system as the US economy, European economies, and elsewhere built itself and themselves out of the catastrophe, the destruction of the Second World War. Well, the hubris within the US reached the point where there was so much money printing that, you know, the gold standard basically, you know, was you have, you know, the dollar was worth like an ounce of gold was $35 to the ounce. And that was providing a tethering to reality with regard to monetary system meeting energy. And the US started to overprint. It started to kind of break away from that discipline, not just for the sake of ratcheting up a war within Vietnam and Southeast Asia and needing spending for that, but also for a feast of social programs and welfare programs collectively entitled the Great Society under President Johnson. And so breaking away from that gold standard, you started having the French government, you started having other governments saying, we see what you're doing. Can we have our gold back, please? Yeah, I know. No, it's not random. It's actually under this Bretton Woods agreement that was agreed at the end of World War II. We want our gold back. And they did enough of that requesting of their physical gold back. And gold is a finite, physical gold obviously is a finite item. If anything, that's physics, is the sense of a physical backstop against excessive monetary and fiscal experimenting being a hard asset. And so, you know, Washington said, you know what, we're the 800-pound gorilla on the planet. It's either us or the Soviets. So tell you what, we're going to close this gold window. We're going to renege, and we're going to put it away. And you're going to just have to accept the dollar as is. And by the way, you really don't have any alternatives because it's either us or communism. And what they did with that was effectively default on gold and default and renege on the promises that were put in with the Bretton Woods. Now, nonetheless, that caused mayhem within markets and needed effective replacing. So what was done, and that was 1971 when the gold standard ended. 1973 is roughly when the Nixon administration, under the guidance of one Henry Kissinger, who was Nixon's a very, very powerful Secretary of State, possibly the most powerful Secretary of State in modern times, at least, if not with for the history of the U.S. Henry Kissinger spearheaded the establishment of the petrodollar standard, essentially replacing a gold standard, one commodity, with an oil standard, another key commodity, and mind you, quite possibly the most important commodity on Earth, 170 years running, and will continue to be. And what it in a nutshell was an agreement between the U.S. government and the Saudi government, Saudis back then being the largest player, not just within OPEC, but having the largest proven oil reserves in the world. And it was basically an agreement that said, Saudis, the House of Saud, you will agree to price your oil and energy resources exclusively in US dollars, and in turn, we'll protect you folks, not just against insurrections or internal strife or whatnot, but against your enemies, be they within Southwest Asia, North Africa, anywhere else. And because the Saudis were the 800-pound gorilla with regard to OPEC, they then could dictate to others, to Iran, to Iraq, to the rest of the OPEC members, as well as non-OPEC members, as well as the rest of the world, to be able to adapt to that. So what that resulted in was basically 44 years of essentially providing a blank check. Just like in a crude sense, make an analogy for viewers. Picture somebody going with their credit card or credit cards into a massive, huge, like well-stocked mall somewhere, and going into any shop within the mall and saying, okay, I'm going to buy everything here, and I'm going to use this card, and you're going to abide by whatever I want to purchase and not ask any questions. And neither the bank behind the credit cards being able to check this person on their spending habits, nor the store owner checking to see if that person genuinely has the production capacity, the resources to be able to, have the credibility behind the credit cards or paying for the goods or whatnot. Whether it's with a gun to the head of the bank, gun to the head of the, it's like I'm going to be able to purchase whatever I can infinitely using my credit cards. That, in a crude kind of acute sense, is the equivalent of what the petrodollar standard has provided for the U.S. Since effectively 1973 through 1975, in transitioning away from an oil standard. Now, what's happening now in the immediate? The East, and by East I mean members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, effectively the spine being Russia and China, as well as their core allies, their very tight allies, including Iran and the Central Asian states. They are innovating around this petrodollar standard. And they're doing so in a fashion where the Saudis, who were like a core, obviously one of two main participants in the founding of the petrodollar standard nearly 5 decades ago, are at the very least curious, if not increasingly kind of open to alternatives to it. And the West, namely Atlanticist nations, Washington, London, certainly, and their allies, are scurrying with panic to try and block any further momentum away from what has been established for these past several decades, and has thus provided what they call a, quote, exorbitant privilege with regard to the status of the US dollar to dictate not just global finance terms, but really politics as well. So it's vital that folks understand. Now, why would anyone care that what the East is doing? Well, I'll tell you, there's way too much debt out West. If anyone understands the concepts of derivatives, there are anywhere from 700 trillion to 1.2 quadrillion, with a Q as in Queen, my favorite band. 1.14 to 1.2 quadrillion dollars worth of derivatives floating out there in the financial ether. I mean, in a nutshell, derivatives are what Warren Buffett, of all people, labeled, quote, financial weapons of mass destruction, end quote. They are so opaque and they are so dangerous in a systematized situation of corrections that it results in things like, well, the 2008 financial crisis. So there's way too much debt, and not just in derivatives context, but national debt, private debt, personal debt, consumer debt, out amongst Atlanticist nations, namely the US and UK and their allies. Whereas there's too much productivity and too many natural resources out East between China, Russia, Iran, the Central Asian states, Turkey, and others. And it doesn't take a physicist or rocket scientist to see that the momentum, economic momentum, would then need to lean towards the productivity versus the speculation and money printing. And hence, that's what's happening. This isn't just a sense of strongman Saddam Hussein in Iraq saying, you know what, I'm fed up with you folks who I thought were loyal to me, namely the US and the West. I'm going to start shifting things away from the petrodollar, and then boom, he's gone. His country is invaded and occupied. Nor is it strongman, quote unquote, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, essentially saying, you know what, this is nonsense, it's a Ponzi scheme, and this tyranny cannot go on forever. I'm going to start arranging for a gold-backed and energy-backed monetary alternative for the African continent, hand in hand with our Eastern allies. And what happens to Libya? It's completely shell-shocked and decimated. And tactically, perversely, Muammar Gaddafi is killed on camera to send a very firm message. What's happening now with regard to these Eastern nations, who are not one-offs like Saddam Hussein's Iraq, or one-offs like Muammar Gaddafi's Libya, but a collectively synthesizing powerful alliance within the finance sphere, is a sense of let's coordinate, let's really try and reinvent the sense of what money is, and let's look over each other and watch each other's backs, so that there isn't that level of interference, if not sabotage or state decimation, discourtesy of those that want to kind of maintain the status quo, regardless of how technically unsustainable it is. So what I've done is write a article, my next article, with regard to the imminent corrections within the petrodollar system, the challenges to it, and I will attach to that article a longer paper that I had written about this subject under pen name back then, but I'm putting my name on it now. About 70 pages, sorry, Sibel, but it is another PDF that will discuss the history of the petrodollar, that will discuss the threats to it, in my opinion, the necessary threats to it, as well as the wider geo-economic, if you will, stakes out there, where the global economy is, why the stakes are so massive. So Mr. Lee earlier was very well putting in context what's happening in North Korea. I am thinking out loud and curious about if, you know, this saber rattling with North Korea isn't in part a sense of indirectly threatening China to back off from doing this stuff. You are taking physical gold and exchanging it for physical oil and natural gas from Russia, and tying it all together with your Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is the largest gold exchange in the world at this point, and mixing it in with your own bilateral currency uses and loan bonds in between Russia and China and other states, and building a momentum that is dangerous for sustainability economically between the U.S. and developed Atlanticist states. But we can't, as governments in the West, overtly acknowledge this. Neither can our government-tethered press, neither can our government-tethered academia. So we have to kind of dance around it. We have to threaten. We have to use this quote-unquote madman theory redux under a Donald J. Trump versus a Nixon 45 years ago. And yet, the Far East, they're not dumb in Moscow. They're not dumb in Beijing. They're certainly not dumb in Tehran or in Ankara. They see the map. They understand what the stakes are. And there's a dance. There's a propaganda dance. The East, in my opinion, is dancing in a much nicer, more sophisticated fashion. But it's with these seemingly just boring, tiring, heady, wonkish subjects involving a petrodollar, involving international bonds, and involving the status of one currency versus another in a currency war, that people, like most people, just kind of look at it, it goes over their heads. They want something simple. They want good guy, bad guy, who needs to die and whatnot. And this is an appeal to you to revolt against your negative conditioning, which is just constantly being conditioned through petty lies, through the equivalent of shaking car keys in an infant's face, which is the media, and really get a sense of what's happening out there for your own sake. It isn't just in the macro and the clouds. It will directly affect your spending behavior, your savings. It's already done so in the decimation of the currency that you so take for granted. And so expect that from me going forward over the next week.
Before we go to Peter for answer, and then Eric Moshe, who has been with us here patiently, and I know he has a lot to say, I want to just say this. You see what I'm talking about? This is why we can't wait. We are so excited to be able to bring on board Mr. Ian. It's, for me, I mean, I get glued to just this the brief explanation of petrodollar, because I have been reading. I read every single day. I'm in charge of our everyday 30-40 pieces of news. I even go to some of the libertarian sites, or even some Cato papers on the side to look at the analysis. I don't see it with this clarity. With some of them, there is still some murkiness involved. I mean, and then we get people who parrot things that they don't understand. They say, a lot of people, I'm talking about layman, they say, oh, it's all because of due to fiat dollar. And if you ask them and you say, explain it, they go, oh, it's just a fashionable term. I just switched, you just switch gender, etc. You switch. I used to be liberal, but now I see myself more as a libertarian. And I have seen this catchphrase, catch it all. It's the fiat money that does everything, but they can't explain it. Because as you mentioned, whether it's through the education system indoctrination, to some of the presentations we see, and I'm so glad, Pi, you brought up NPR. In a way, it's good because they are doing it openly. They say something like this, and they're talking about Syria or Iraq. They say, and this program was, and this is after that woman, Diane Rehm, was brought to you by AIPAC, JINSA, the American Enterprise Institute. And see, what does it mean when they say, and this program was brought to you? Well, they are saying that we are being paid by some of the top players, deep state players, the ones that we are supposed to be fighting. And we have been paid by those, the fiat dollars. So that's what it is. The same thing with PBS. You see the word public, National Public Radio, or the public broadcast. There is nothing really public about it, and so that was a great point. But this brief explanation on petrodollars, to me, because again, I'm not an economist, one of the best explanations I have heard that is put forth in such a clean way that I say, perfect. And it got me engaged in critical thinking. I remember the whole issue of the OPEC crisis in 1970s, early 70s. And then after that, we had the revolution or the regime change, etc. in Iran. But how all these are connected and how they are connected, that is what we are seeing lacking out there. And this is what we want to bring to you, our viewers, by people such as Pi Ian and by Russia-Balkans expert, Professor Philip Kovacevic. One of the dares that I have put out there, I like the daring game. I tell people, I say, can you point out one news outlet, one organization, information, that is in any way close to or comes close to Newsbud, okay? I have not had anyone taking the challenge, because when you look at the caliber of people we have, and when you look at the way they present information, the untainted information presented by real experts, okay? And to you, without any of the gongs, without any of the influence, I tell people, find one. And there may be a singular expert operating a blog on weekend, maybe if he or she is working, but do you have one? Can you point out to one that brings to you all the things that we are bringing to you on daily basis and by these people? And I'm so proud of my team members. I was talking with James Corbett before we started this whole fundraising, the first phase, and both of us were talking about how scary it is to run an organization. Yeah, all the bureaucracy, hierarchy, people having infighting with each other, the egos. Why my name is listed under so and so's name? My name should be above that. I've been with you. I said, I don't know. That gave me a pause, a momentary pause. That is. I got over it, and I had to gamble because I was being warned, even by people I really respect, saying, it's going to get into those. It's inevitable. I have to say, people, we have ended up with a dream team because everyone is mature. Everybody is egoless. We haven't had those issues once, and we're not about to let that happen. That's what we mean by expanding with sure steps. Slowly but surely, because we do not want to get rid of this equilibrium. It's a perfect equilibrium. And again, I would put the dare out right now. And with that said, to find and point at one news organization, information outlet on the internet or on cable channels, okay, that gives you this, what you are being provided through by Newsbud. Now, with that said, we have this goal. We only have basically 5 weeks left because we have just finished our first week. Please don't wait. Don't wait. Don't put it off till tonight or tomorrow or next week. A lot of people do that. It's some kind of and then it just creates its own chain reaction. Do it right now. Check out our track record. Check out our programs. You can go to newsbud.com and look at our About Us section. Click at About Us section. Take a look at the bio of people we have. Look at the shows, analysis, papers they have been producing, and everything we've been putting forth every single day, nonstop for you. And see it for yourself, and then do the right thing. Join this community. Join this community. Now, there are people who say everything on the internet should be free, and we just had this discussion the other day. There is no such a thing as free. Show me one. When you see those advertisements, it tells you there it's not free. And when you see NPR's Diane Rehm saying this program, this presentation was brought to you, but this jerk, and that jerk, and the Rockefeller Foundation, and George Soros's Open Society, that is not free. You know who paid for those programs on NPR? And I'm so glad you brought it up, Pi. I just can envision, right now, the bike pants and that foamy latte and the iPad there, the iPhone, and I'm listening to NPR. I feel so educated, the yuppies out there. We are not those. I don't think we are attraction to those people either. And I'm so sorry that they have been so successful, they being the deep state, in this illusion, providing this illusion and indoctrinate people. And I was just having, again, the same conversation with another person the other day. I said, look at the cable channel you're subscribing, CNN, etc. To get the CNN, you're already paying close to $100 a month for those packages they give you. And still, despite the fact, it's double dipping, right? Despite the fact that you're paying, okay, you're paying for it, they have all these ads. It's double dipping. You are swallowing all those advertisements. So the deep state pays for it. And then you go like suckers. I'm sorry. I disconnected my cable channel in 2002. We don't have cable channel. Plus, I'm a mother. I have a daughter. She's 8 years old. She is at this impressionable age. I'm not going to expose my child to those advertisements. I'm not going to expose my child to that misinformation. Plus, I don't want to give $100, $85, $110 a month to get propaganda, pay for it, and then swallow ads. I mean, that is like being triple sucker, excuse my lingo, but that's what it is. What we are providing at Newsbud is no advertisement. If somebody says they are alternative media outlet, you see the ads. If you have any critical thinking ability, pause, think. You know they are not. No advertisements. There is no double dipping or triple dipping, because then you get some that have all three. They have foundations backing them. George Soros, Rockefeller, Koch brothers, the whole, sugar daddies, the sugar daddies industry up there, the deep state players, and the mega corporation advertisements. Plus, they're asking you to donate to their site. I mean, one of them, we just gave the example, but please don't wait. Do your share, put the word out. All you have to do, invite people, your friend, your neighbors, your family members, to check out our website for themselves. Because what we have been presenting with our team, our dream team, it speaks for itself. We don't have to sit down and gloat about it. Look at it. You will not find a single outlet at this caliber, with this consistency, with this kind of people. It doesn't exist. No ads, no foundation. Take out that wallet, do whatever you can, whether it's $25, whether it's $2,500. Together we can. But with that, Spiro, before we move to Eric, do we have any other questions?
There was a lot of activity here in the chat, and a few different questions. It was moving along pretty quick. One of the ones that sticks out of my mind was, what is your long-term vision of Newsbud? And someone was asking about the importance of our two-pronged approach, the model being fundraiser-driven and subscription model. So those were two questions. There was some other ones for Payan. There was some ones for Kovacevic. It's moving along pretty quick. But yes, everyone, if you have any questions there in the chat,
Perfect.
Go ahead. And
Maybe we take a few minutes. Maybe we take a few minutes and answer some of these questions. I'll answer the two you mentioned, and then please forward the question and ask our other team members, since they have specifically asked them. Long-term model. They called us, the starters, as overly ambitious. And right now, those people who called us that, they regret it, because we basically hit all those benchmarks. I have even more ambitious goals for us. One of them is just coming into to fruition here. I said we want to start Newsbud Academy. Why? And there's no news organization that provides this. We are the only one. We are spearheading this. Okay. Why? We get that a lot by email, through Newsbud contact page, even in the comment sections. A lot of people, and I don't blame them. I know why, because Ian just mentioned what academia has done. They feel lost. They're like, I just don't understand. I don't understand this thing with ISIS, but then we are working with Al-Qaeda. But Al-Qaeda is supposed to be the group responsible for 9/11. And we are at war with Al-Qaeda in this supposed other country, but we are working together in Syria. And this thing with Russia, and then they're like, we need some basic principles, okay? That the foundation, you know how when you go to college, they say 101, and it's a prerequisite. You have to take it in order to take the next level, because you need to have the base, and then you keep adding to that base. So, and the idea first came through Professor Kovacevic, and I said, this is exactly what we should do. How do we go about doing it? Well, we are offering our first course by Professor Philip Kovacevic, and it's a prerequisite to the coming courses. You want to understand what is really going on right now, today, with Russia, why, basically answering the question of who, what, how, why, in order to read these newspaper articles and be able to tell what is propaganda, what is fact, what is truth, what is a lie. You need to take this course. Well, we are offering it, and it's going to be live online on June 10th and June 11th. We only have 5 or 6 days left for registration. We already made our quota. We already have registered the number of students or the participants for the seminar/course that we needed as a minimum, and we have gone way above that, but there are still seats available. Is this the only course? No. We are going to have another one by one of the nation's top constitutional attorneys, John W. Whitehead, and this is going to be about your rights, or what you believe you have as your rights in the United States, because a lot of people are under this illusion that we have a lot of rights. We don't. They have been basically gutted. They have been butchered systematically, nonstop. So that's going to be, I'm not going to give out much on that, but that's going to come, and we're going to have other courses as well. And so every quarter we are going to offer these online courses, more additional courses by Professor Philip Kovacevic. You have this. The long-term plans, besides this, still ambitious, and I think there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. We want to get to the point where every day we have several shows. As I said, we want to bring Ian on board with weekly show, in addition to his analysis that he does, his writing. We're going to have investigative reporters. We want to be able to broadcast, have subtitles available. As I said, close to 60% of our subscribers, our viewers are from around the world. Granted, many of them are English speaking, such as Denmark and UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, etc. But we have people from the Balkans who have been very nice. They are our subscribers, and they're a huge fan of Professor Kovacevic. Even though they have basic English, they're like, this is great, but I want to be able to get it in my language. Can you please provide us? Whether it's coming the request from Turkey, whether it's coming from Egypt, whether it's coming from Czech Republic, we want to be able to have select presentations offered with subtitle. Again, there is not a single news channel that is doing that I'm aware of outside. I don't even know if CNN does that. Is that ambitious? Of course it is. Is there anything wrong? Absolutely not. Is it achievable? It all depends on you. So please do your share. Go to Kickstarter link. It's provided to you, and donate whatever you can. If you are not part of the countries accepted by the Kickstarter, you can visit newsbud.com and you can click on the donate button or subscribe button. And we have various payment methods, whether it's PayPal, whether it's check, whether it's all the direct credit cards. Please do your share and please help us achieve these goals, both short-term and long-term. The other goal we have, and that is again, down the road, maybe in a year and a half, we want to be able to have offices, satellite offices in various countries. I already have contacts. We already have correspondents, research people in Belgium. We have them in Germany, but we have them in Turkey. But we want to be able to have what I call satellite office. So it doesn't have to be physical, but with all the technological requirements for the internet connection, good webcam, etc., with the experts on the ground, so we can have correspondent in Turkey, we can have them in Central Asia, and have this presence, because internet makes it international. But adding subtitles and having these offices is going to even expand it further, and eventually we will have our own cable channel for those people who want cable channel. We will start small, but we'll grow big. Ambitious, yes. Is it doable? Yes. How? Depends on you. So please don't wait. Click, whether it's the Kickstarter page or newsbud.com. Please do your share. Join our community. Become part of this community. This is a community effort done for the community. So please, and we're going to be welcoming you with open arms. And with that, let's move to other questions, Spiro and whoever they're asking from. Please go ahead and provide your response.
That's right. You can submit your questions there in the live chat. Now, after this video, after we're no longer live, people won't see that live chat. It's only a function that occurs while we're actually live. So for those of you in the chat room, feel free to submit your questions. I know Eric Moshe, you said, yes, he's been sitting there patiently waiting. I think Peter Lee also had a response to Pi Ian's question he had there. And so who would like to go next? Anybody?
I yield my place to the dude next door here. Okay.
So I just have a brief presentation on 5 current news stories about drones. For those who aren't familiar with me, my name is Eric Moshe. I'm a student at George Mason University, and I cover a lot of drone issues, and I interview professors and experts on a variety of subjects. So I'm going to go over 5 interesting stories related to drones. So I'm going to hit it right now. So a RAND Corporation study published recently found that the crews of remotely piloted aircraft are suffering from stress and dissatisfaction as a result of heavy workloads. Now, this is something that we've seen in the news constantly, that drone operators are very stressed with the work that they do. The demand for the Air Force's remotely piloted aircraft, RPAs, has exploded in the past few years. Even though the Air Force has increased its number of remotely piloted aircraft units, it has been unable to keep up with this demand. This problem is exacerbated by an inability to fill the ranks of RPA units. The result is that RPA personnel work inordinately long hours, and the RPA mission is more demanding in terms of flying time than the typical traditionally manned aircraft mission. Air Force Special Operations Command leadership recognized the need to address RPA workforce issues and asked RAND Project Air Force to identify issues potentially affecting the RPA force and recommend ways to mitigate them. So these researchers, their main finding was that crews view their mission as important and feel a strong sense of camaraderie, including positive attitudes towards colleagues and working in a supportive team setting. On the negative side, crews feel stressed and regard their stress as greater than that of other career fields. About 1/3 of those in the groups showed signs of burnout. The most frequently mentioned concerns were related to lack of manning and overtasking. Another frequently mentioned area of dissatisfaction was shift work. Some concerns were also expressed about training. Although most personnel felt that they were adequately trained, they felt that more training will allow them to offer more support. RPA units' locations Cannon, Creech, and Hollow Man Air Force bases were generally seen as undesirable, and available facilities and services were seen as lacking, largely because of the schedules the crews had to follow. Meanwhile, at Air and Space magazine, Zach Rosenberg looks at how the U.S. Air Force is pushing to develop the capability for drones to detect and respond to threats on their own. Have Raider 2, a 2-week series of demonstration flights, showed that a drone could carry out a mission autonomously even when interrupted by an unknown surface-to-air missile threat. Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works uploaded its autonomous mission planning software onto the Air Force Test Pilot School's venerable NF-16 Vista experimental aircraft, and had the school students put it through its paces as their capstone project. Have Raider 2 went well beyond its namesake. In 2015, Have Raider 1 tested whether or not the NF-16 could automatically detect, join up, and fly formation with a lead aircraft in the same way that a human wingman could, and it worked. What we wanted to do, quote, with Have Raider 2 was really focus on how intelligent, if you will, can we make the unmanned asset from a mission planning and execution standpoint, says Lockheed's loyal wingman program manager, Sean Whitcomb. While Vista was sent into the air by itself, a lead aircraft on the ground gave it commands over a data link. So some of the technological developments there, I've got 2 more stories about drones. In another drone-related development, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is known as DARPA, is organizing a drone swarming technology competition. So all the competitors out there, get ready for it. Between the U.S. Military Academy, the U.S. Naval Academy, and the U.S. Air Force Academy. So according to their press release, DARPA created the Service Academy Swarm Challenge, a collaboration between the agency and the 3 U.S. military service academies. In an experiment at its heart, the research effort is designed to encourage students to develop innovative offensive and defensive tactics for swarms of small, unmanned aerial vehicles. Today, the effort started its 3-day live flight competition, not today, whenever this article was written, at Camp Roberts, a California Army National Guard post north of Paso Robles, California, which is hosting more than 40 cadets and midshipmen to demonstrate the highly autonomous swarm tactics they have developed since work started in September. Ranging in size from 11 to 21 students, the teams bring cross-disciplinary expertise in diverse technical and non-technical fields, from computer science, robotics, and so forth. The students also bring insights that DARPA and the U.S. military can learn from and potentially expand upon to enhance the tactical effectiveness of swarm systems. So teams can score points in the following ways. Air-to-air tags by using a simulated weapon to hit a sensor on an opponent's UAV in flight. That sounds to me like laser tag. 2 is air-to-ground tags by physically landing a UAV on the opponent's flag located on the ground. So a little bit of a capture your flag type of game. And thirdly, accomplishments in swarm logistics by launching as many UAVs as quickly as possible and keeping them aloft as long as possible. And my third story comes from the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab and the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental, where the 2 organizations are sponsoring the development of a counter-drone technology that detects, tracks, and takes control of rogue drones. The Marine Corps Warfighting Lab is partnering with the Pentagon's innovation arm to develop a promising anti-drone technology. The lab and the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental have inked a contract with Sensofusion, a UAS countermeasure company, to build out a technology called AirFence, according to an April 25th announcement. The system uses special radio frequency technology to detect, track, and then take control of UAS, in theory giving troops the ability to create a perimeter or establish no-fly zones for small drones. Unlike some other drone fighting technologies specialized for military use, AirFence has already been put to work in a variety of civilian capacities around the world, including airports in Europe, international government buildings, and state events featuring officials who might require privacy or security. The system is being expanded to protect other infrastructure such as nuclear power plants, waste and water treatment centers, and solar farms, according to the release. Sensofusion officials say that they hope that all U.S. military branches and the Department of Homeland Security will find uses for this technology. And I wanted to make one last note. I'm not sure if I should mention this, but there's a new documentary coming out, but it's sponsored by PBS. So if I shouldn't go further, let me know. All right, I'll just go further. So a new documentary called National Bird follows the journey of 3 whistleblowers determined to break the silence around one of the most controversial issues of our times, the secret drone warfare program, which has been waged globally for more than a decade. The film, executive produced by some pretty famous documentary makers, Errol Morris and Wim Wenders, gives insight into the program through the eyes of veterans and survivors to explore the complexities of drone warfare from a human perspective. At the center of the film are 3 U.S. military veterans named Heather, Daniel, and Lisa. Plagued by guilt over participating in the killing of faceless people in foreign countries, each decides to speak out publicly regardless of the consequences. Their stories take dramatic turns, leading one of them to Afghanistan, where she learns about a tragic incident involving drone warfare. New National Bird explores the difficult circumstances faced by military personnel involved with combat drones, the use of which has transformed modern warfare. This film was made by Sonia Kennebach, an independent documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist. You can watch National Bird on, wait for it, pbs.org. Thank you guys for your time.
Well, thanks for joining us, Eric. We've had some questions coming in here through the chat. One of the questions was from Jenny, and she did back our Kickstarter project. So I'd like to thank Jenny very much for your support and all the rest out there who have supported Newsbud's Phase 3 Kickstarter campaign. She said she's asking if she can still sign up for Newsbud Academy, and what does she need to participate? I would like Philip here in a moment to say a little bit about the Academy, but what we would recommend for what you would need is a good, solid internet connection. This is an online course that's going to be interactive. It's going to be taking place. There's going to be multiple people there. I'm going to be there. Sibel's going to be there. We're not going to be teaching the course. Obviously, we'll leave that to the professor, but we're very interested in the material that's going to be provided, and the link is on the website. You can go there, excuse me, right at the top of the page, and there'll be a whole course description and everything right there provided. But good, solid internet, and I'd recommend maybe trying to log in a little bit before the class, just in case you need to install some type of a plug-in or something along those lines. You don't want to be trying to wait last minute to do that. But each person who participates in the class will get a full DVD of the course. They're going to get a Newsbud hat. They're going to get live Q&A time with the professor. And Philip, anything you'd like to add?
Well, thank you very much, Jenny. I'm looking forward to meeting you virtually in class. This class is foundational. It's based on many years of my experience of studying geopolitical theory, because I wanted to understand the big picture. Everything is derived from a conception that people have in their minds. And here in this course, I'm looking at the foundations of Anglo-American geopolitics, of the Anglo-American vision of dominating the world and how they have wanted to go about it. And then at the same time, I'm also looking at the Russian response to the Anglo-American geopolitical vision. This is the kind of material that you won't find anyplace else put together. In some places, you may read about Anglo-American geopolitics. You may read about Mackinder, about Spickman, and in the other places you may read about Dugin, Primakov, and so on, but you will never find them put together. The material from the Russian thinkers is in Russian, so I summarized it and presented it in English for the first time. So what you get after finishing this course is a vision of the last 100 years or more in global politics. And also, I'm trying to have a critical perspective to both of these sides. So you're also getting my perspective to all of that. So if you want to understand what is really going on in the world based on long-term, decade-long geopolitical visions, you need to sign up for this class. This is the foundational class. This is Geopolitics 101. And this is my answer to the critics who say that geography makes no difference, that history is not important. Now we are at the end of history. No, we are not. We are not at the end of history, and geography still matters. Just to give you one example that came up in our discussion today, take a look at the map of North Korea, Russia, and China. Take a look at the map and look at the borders. Russia and North Korea prevent China from the access to the Sea of Japan. This border was drawn 100 years ago. Why is China being prevented from access to the Sea of Japan? Well, it was done with a purpose many years ago. And there are so many spots like that in the world. Think about Gibraltar. Think about Gibraltar. It's still under the British control, even though Spain and Britain have been in NATO together for a long time. They've been allies for 40 years, and yet Britain is not about to give up Gibraltar to Spain, right? And there's so many other issues. Think about Crimea. Why did the Russians take over Crimea? All these things have to do with the geography. Even in today's age of drones and digital communication and so on and so forth, geography makes a difference. And if you take this course, you'll understand why. Because I give you a theoretical foundational equipment that everything else is derived from. In order to understand the current US foreign policy, the Russian foreign policy, you need to understand the foundation. So we start with the first things. In this class, we start with the first things. And then in my future courses, we'll build on that. We'll look at different strategies, different tactics to achieve the overall geopolitical strategies. We are going to be looking at the different strategic and tactical deceptions. But you need to have this course in order to understand the other material.
That's great. That's right. And I just provided the link there in the live chat, and it will be provided in the show notes as well as in the chat after this video is finished and posted on our YouTube channel. So for more information, you can go to newsbud.com. And I think we're about going to be wrapping this up here, our presentation. I'd like to go around and get any final words and comments from our panel here. And we'll go ahead and start with Peter Lee. Put you on the spot, Peter.
No problem. I was just thinking about this and the difference that smart, engaged, good people can make. And all I can say is please contribute to the Kickstarter. Please support Newsbud on a subscription basis. Continue to watch. Don't do it for us. Do it for you, your family, and your community. Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Peter. Well said. And remember that none of this would be possible without your support. So it's a win-win. We work around the clock every day trying to provide you with everything that we can to the best of our abilities. So thank you for your support. From there, do we have any takers, any volunteers, or I'm going to start pointing fingers?
I'll comment here, Spiro. Just to reiterate Peter's great urging, I would just urge viewers and subscribers who may know of other subscribers, if there's an ounce of genuine curiosity within you and an ounce of genuine awareness with regard to the wider stakes out there globally, geopolitically, economically, really across the board, we urge you to really support this platform because it's providing not just a public service, it's really providing a mental tether away from so much inertia that ever since you were a toddler has been conditioning you to be a certain way, to think a certain way. And we just want to continually on a daily basis plant germs of curiosity and the best things in this life, to the life of the mind. We want you, whether you're sophisticated in the subjects that we're covering or just brand new, we don't want you to be intimidated. We want you engaged, and we want you to live the life of the mind.
Well, thank you very much, Pi, and that's right. That's right. We're doing all of this for our community, and that's why we're trying to encourage as many people as we can to try to join the Newsbud community. That's and you can do so by visiting newsbud.com and becoming a member, where you will have access to exclusive content every week. We've been cranking out the exclusive content. Peter Lee has a if you love China Watch, and people in the comments are saying right now that they love China Watch, and Peter's show kicks ass was one of the quotes there in the chat. Then you're going to love Asia Brief. That's a weekly exclusive show only available to the Newsbud community. And we also provide, in addition to that, we're going to be adding more and more. I know, Sibel, you and I have been extremely busy going behind the scenes, and we're starting to ramp up production for your show, Probable Cause. We've been in work on that, and I'm looking forward to producing my own shows, and then our own shows, Spotlight with Spiro and Sibel. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot happening, and it's only possible with your support. So please support independent media, support Newsbud, go to our Kickstarter campaign. It's an all or nothing campaign, and we can't do it without your support. So from here, I'm going to move to Eric Moshe.
Well, there's so many good things to say about Newsbud. First of all, Peter mentioned earlier that one of the positive aspects of Newsbud is that every single penny that you donate goes straight into the operation. It goes straight into funding new reporters. It goes straight into producing these great shows. So I would say that Newsbud is just an important project because it takes everything that you've heard about integrity-filled media and it just personifies it. This is something that you won't find any other video on YouTube with the same amount of, I would say, well-balanced and well-calculated good nature. I think that it's just a good-natured organization. I don't think any of this would revolve without the key ingredient, and this is not as a form of flattery because I'm an employee of Newsbud, but let's face facts. Sibel Edmonds is one of the key ingredients that makes Newsbud a success. And if you've come upon this organization because you read her book or you heard about her story, well, this is a great gateway. This is a great gateway drug for you, per se, because now you have access to all these other media personalities that you may not have discovered. Myself excluded, I'm only good for the articles at the moment. But support Newsbud. This is not a very expensive platform. We're not asking for the world. We're simply asking for the exact amount calculated that we'll be able to operate with the amount of staff that we have, and with Spiro and Sibel's vision for the future. So if you want an ambitious news channel to watch, then invest in it. That's as simple as that. And I encourage you all, and we all appreciate what you've been doing for us. And I as a fan of Newsbud, not just a contributor, I'm looking forward to what the future brings.
Thank you, Eric. And those of you, if you haven't visited our website in the last few days, Eric's latest analysis, actually this is an interview. It's a very, very good interview, as all his interviews. It's out there under our article section. It's on homepage. Oil, the Iraq War, and the geopolitical and capitalist dynamics underlying world order. Read his article, this interview. But if you go under our article button at the top and you click, you will see all our authors listed. So if you click at Eric Moshe, then you can have all the different analysis, interviews that Eric has been providing for Newsbud. And again, you won't find, I haven't found anything in this category the way he does it, Eric does it elsewhere. That's another thing we really appreciate, because all our producers, whether it's Kurt Nemo or Peter or Philip, even though they are part of Newsbud, each one operates independently and they bring their expertise and their production to us, and then we edit it. But we don't have this micromanagement and cookie cutter for either personality types or a delivery style. Each person happens to be his or her unique self, and they are themselves. As you can tell when you watch these videos, you will smell and detect sincerity. And it's real, it's raw, it's real. It's nothing that is scripted or, you know, top to bottom management. Somebody says, I want you to do this. I want you to do this topic. I happen to wait for, let's say, Philip's or Peter's or Kurt's video excitedly like the rest of you, because I have no idea what I'm going to be seeing. It's like every week is like Christmas for each show. I'm going to get to see what they have for topic, for different topics for each segment, the sources they use. So no, we don't have this management that they are answering to me, or none of those. That's another beauty of Newsbud's, the way it has come together and is operating. No micromanagement, no hierarchy, none of these things. And again, we are very, very thankful to have this wonderful team. And I know, Philip, you got to go. I want you to finish it, and then Spiro and I will wrap up from here.
Well, I invite everybody to support Newsbud. This is a unique media educational project, and I know it's going to be successful. You know, I've always known that. I think we have a great team, and with your support, we will be even better in the future. So please support Newsbud. We'll do our best to get and to preserve your trust, because the key is who is saying it, not what you are saying, but who is saying it. And we have the credibility which we have shown so far. So please support us, make this project successful.
That's right. And you can do that by going to Kickstarter. The link has been in the chat. It's going to be in the show notes. It's going to be in the comment section. It's going to be everywhere. And you can go, you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, here on YouTube, Instagram, and support independent media. We're here doing what we can, and we like to give back to our community, but we need your support to keep this operation running. And this is a fantastic team. I'd like to thank everyone who's on board here. We've been going for about 2 hours now, so that's a pretty long time. So I thank you guys for having patience and joining us. We're also going to be running another live stream next weekend, same time, Sunday at 2 p.m. We're going to have a different lineup next weekend. As you may or may not know, Newsbud has well over a dozen people on our team. So not everyone could be here today, but we want to participate, communicate with you guys, hear from you guys, get questions from you. We like to be transparent in what we do here, because we are people-funded media. We're supported 100% by the people. Sibel?
Absolutely. I have gotten a few other questions here through my Twitter's DM. For example, one question says, do you engage in any censorship? I don't know who asked these questions, because with Twitter, I mean, 99.9% of the people, I would say censorship in terms of information we present our producers, absolutely not. But there's a different kinds of control or censorship, some people may call it. In the comment section for our website, we have no problem. We have wonderful people. They are civilized, they are respectful, they engage in discussions, but it's not in the form of attack. On YouTube, it gets on my nerve, and I have given our web admins and the YouTube admins I'm not going to say order, the directive or anything, but to say anybody who is rude, anybody who is engaged in not constructive manner of communicating, it can be constructive criticism, is out. So we don't, as I said, we're not after millions of people on our YouTube. The people who want that are the people who are making ads from your clicks. We are not into advertisement. We want people who are civilized, they are critical thinkers, and they are respectful. If you don't agree with the point presented in the show, of course you can voice your disagreement, but do it in a civilized fashion. I'm from an older generation. I'm conservative in that way, and I know it doesn't fit some of the maybe the newer generations. That maybe you may have problem with that. It is not going to change. You're going to get banned. We delete the comment, we ban people who are not civilized, and our team members. I feel like I am in some way like a mama bear, and I will not allow anyone insulting our team members or insulting our community members who are coming there and engaging in constructive, critical thinking discussion. That's perfectly fine. So that's the only thing that comes to mind as far as censorship goes. Those kinds of rudeness, censored, uncivilized comments, censored, attacks, personal attacks are censored. And then people who engage in that, they get banned. There is no shame in that. We are proud of it. We're going to continue that practice, and we're going to be even more restrictive. See, our community is all about that anyway. We don't have to do that with our community members. I have yet to see people being, engaging in those types of behaviors on our website, because people who can post comments are subscribers. With that said, no other censorship is being practiced. And I want to thank all of you who participated in our previous Kickstarter campaigns, all of you who are participating in this Kickstarter phase 3, and every one of you who have been subscribers at Newsbud, because subscription hand in hand with the seed money is the only way for us to accomplish this. And subscription base, I tell you what the goal is. Currently, we're about 2,000 subscribers. These are monthly and yearly subscribers combined. We need to be at minimum of 6,000 to 7,000 subscribers in order to be self-sustained, meaning we don't then need to go and do Kickstarters or other fundraising. And the rate it's going, we believe we can achieve that with your help, with you helping us by putting the word out. We can achieve this number of 6,000 to 7,000 subscribers in a year and a half, 2 years. That's why we have been having Kickstarters, because we need that money that comes from Kickstarter to put the team together, to set up the business, to operate while our subscriber numbers goes up. 6,000 to 7,000 will sustain what we currently have. And then anything after that translates into growth. And that's where we want to be. That's where we are headed. And when you think of it, the fact that our audience, our viewers, our supporters, the pool it's not only the United States or the UK or Western Europe, it's the whole world. Then you look at the number and say, what? They only need 7,000 to 8,000 subscribers to self-sustain? That's nothing. That's nothing. One of the things we are fighting is this wrong mentality that on the internet, everything has to be free, which nothing is free on the internet, I can assure you. And when you come to quality production, what we are offering, it's impossible. And all our team members, one of the things I want to accomplish, not only for our viewers, but our team members, I want to make sure whether they are investigative journalists, whether they are producers, whether they are analysts, I want them to get compensated the way they deserve, which is much higher than where they should be today. They are engaged in a lot of sacrifices here to go through the growth stage with Newsbud. And this is going to change, and that is my promise. And what we want is, that's what we want to be proud of. We get top-notch people, we compensate top-notch. And by that, I don't mean only within the alternative area. I'm talking about the entire news industry. I want our producers to get compensated as level or better than some of those mega corporations. You know why? Because they deserve it. I know a lot of them, the others out there, maybe they don't have other opportunities to get out of those mega corporations, those propaganda channels. Our people deserve that. And as you can see, yes, they do. With your help, we can accomplish all this. Please don't wait. Take out your wallet, go to Kickstarter and donate what you can. Nothing is too little. The more, the better if you can, because we can speed up this process, go expand, and then we'll grow together. And this community is gonna, with sure steps, get expanded. And yes, we are having effects. We are going to have more effects as well. Spiro?
Well, that's right. And Newsbud was only been around officially for about 9 months or so. I mean, it hasn't even been a year yet. And look at what the team that we've been able to build, top experts in their topics, on their subjects, well-respected team. And it's hasn't even been a year, and it's only because of you, the people, and your support. So if you haven't already, go to Newsbud's Kickstarter page, and before you even pledge and support, check out just check out the whole page. We really put a lot into this page, and it was a team effort. A lot of us went ahead and put a lot of work into this page. There's 3 different videos on this page. This main one at the top, you can come down and we're really proud of our team, as you can tell. And we have this video right here, the Supporters Speak Out video. It's a powerful video that Newsbud supporters, we wanted to hear from them and have you guys hear from them. And it's a great video. I really, it's humbling to hear from all of the supporters and everyone in the comments today. Thank you so much. We only had to block or ban 1 person today. I think that's a new record here. But everyone's been great. All the support has been fantastic. And we just can't thank you guys enough. So this campaign is an all or nothing campaign, and we got about 37 days left to go. And with your support, we need to make this happen so we can keep Newsbud where it needs to be. And stay tuned for, we'll have another live stream next weekend, Sunday, 2 p.m. We're going to have, Sibel and I will be there, and we're going to have a different lineup of our Newsbud team members. But I'd like to thank Peter Lee, Professor Philip Kovacevic, Pi Ian, Eric Moshe, and Sibel Edmonds, the founder and editor of Newsbud. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you out there supporting us, because without your support, none of this would be possible.
Thank you all.